Now this week, South Africa's leading empowerment awards celebrated the success of companies and individuals that are driving transformation. The Top Empowerment Summit was held in Johannesburg, and the Top Empowerment Awards last night honored former President Kgalema Motlanthe with a Lifetime Achievement Award for Empowerment, saying he has impacted on the evolution of social cohesion. So after 25 years of transformation, we're assessing tonight how BEE and BBBEE has really changed this country. Where are we? To discuss, we're joined by Busi Ngwenya, who's a commissioner from the BBBEE Commission. We're also joined by Lebo Madiba, who is representing the Top Empowered Business of the Year, that's Etion Limited. Welcome to you both. So I want to ask you about Etion, but let's start with you, Busi. Looking back, addressing the inequalities created by the apartheid system was crucial for South Africa. So we bring in these labor laws, BEE comes in. Later there's concern that only some individuals are on multiple boards, involved in multiple deals. Some would even say our current president. So it becomes broad-based black economic empowerment. How would you assess the state of transformation in South Africa right now?
When you look at thank you, Francis. When you look at the report that we issued, because every year we do what we call a national status report on transformation, just to show where we're standing. Last year, it showed us that when you look at the JSE listed entities, the board representation was still 62% white or foreign nationals, and then 28% black people. So it shows that much as there's some movement, but we are not there where we really like to be. But when you consider when the policy started in 2003, it was just a policy framework, and there was also no commission to ensure that it's implemented correctly. And then in 2016, the commission started operating. And then that's when you could now start looking at the state of transformation. What we've also seen is that if we are aware, we do receive BBBEE major transactions that are lodged by entities where a transaction is over 25 million above, they are supposed to register that transaction with us. So when we received this transaction, we decided to also assess them just to see whether they are aligned to the legislation. What would be pleasing is to say, I mean, in 2017-18, there were 275 transactions that were registered. And when you look at the scope of them, some of them had trust within them. So it was no longer going to just individuals, because what people used to complain about was to say, we keep seeing the same faces getting into these BEE deals.
So you mean trust even representing communities or groups?
Where you've got groups, you've got employee share ownership schemes, your broad-based ownership schemes. So we started seeing a bit of these transactions then including those community trust. But the manner then in which they are structured still leaves a lot to be desired, because most of them, when you look at the way that they're structured, they are talking to issues of skills development, socio-economic development, but not ownership as the legislation would like them to be. But most of them, we're writing to these entities to say, these are the concerns we've got, can you align? But I think based on those transactions, you can see that there are some people who are doing something. The question is that then those deals align to the BBBEE, or are people just doing it because they want to obtain tenders, but there's no real transformation that is intended by those transactions?
Well, can we say at least we've moved away from tokenism, where people were involved, black people had to give their signature, they weren't actively involved in businesses? Some, but I mean that's just a minority. What we're seeing as you're assessing these transactions is that, unfortunately, and the question that you always ask is also the black people, when they sign these transactions, do they actually read them and understand what they are signing? So we still find that there is still some window dressing or tokenism, as you call it. And the question, though, is the person that's signing, the black person, did they understand what they are signing and what they are binding themselves to? Because what you find is that probably when you look at the trust now, you find that it's aligned. But when you start asking for the shareholders agreement and the memorandum of incorporation, you find that it takes away all the gains that might have been in the trust itself. When you're thinking, but okay, there's no board representation for black people, how are those beneficiaries going to be represented and their voice heard? For instance, you find that there's no active participation. You find that there are no dividends flowing to black people.
or economic interest, because that's what the legislation says. If you look at ownership, there must be exercisable voting right, economic interest, and also net value realization if there's a loan attached to the transaction. So those are some of the concerns that we've got.
Okay, so 25 years later, we still have a way to go.
we really still have a way to go. I'm not sure if you also saw one of our reports where we're saying most of the complaints that we're receiving, over 80% are still on fronting.
Sure.
Yes.
Which is huge.
Which is huge.
And I want to ask you, there's even claims about state capture, but let me bring you in, Lebo. Let's talk about the good news, because Etienne awarded Top Empowered Business. Is that valuable recognition for your company?
I think it's valuable recognition for us. We are a technology company that's listed on the JSE. And we operate in cybersecurity, telecommunications, manufacturing as well. And for us, we want to build a Black-owned and Black-managed technology company that's leading the pack in terms of BEE. And BEE is a strategy for us. In 2012, we were level 5. So it has been a journey for us to be able to get to level 1. We've achieved the level 1 rating for 2 years in a row, I think now. And it's all about building a type of company that represents what South Africa looks like. And we do that all the way from the top to the bottom in terms of management, in terms of directorship, board directorship, which is important, as Busi mentioned, from a JSE listing perspective.
So how did you do it, going from level 5 to level 1? Is that just about will and determination and making sure every appointment is the right appointment and is taking into consideration BEE?
Yes, everything is well considered. From a hiring perspective, we go all the way to make sure that we find the right type of people. Our connectivity business, for example, had no MD for about 6-7 months last year, and our CEO was acting in that position, and it was because we wanted to make sure that we get good representative in that position. And it's a concerted effort in terms of executive level. In management level as well, there's lots of training that's going into training young Black people to raise them to management level, and obviously to just grow them through the organization. Even from an enterprise development and supplier development, it's making sure that we get the right types of organizations in, and we support them not just from a monetary perspective, but also from a mentorship perspective, so that the businesses grow. Because our feeling has always been that if you just pump money into those programs, the businesses become reliant on it. So we make sure that we don't just pump money, we also put mentorship behind it so that they grow and we're able to bring a new crop in.
All right, so we're looking at the success of transformation. But Busi, with you, I want to talk about a concern maybe relatively new. Someone wrote a piece earlier this month saying that BEE inadvertently became an enabler of state capture. And I think we still see it in the leader of IO Technologies, for example. Whenever there's criticism, some people can say, are you not supporting Black business? Was that a tool in the hands of state captures?
I think you have to look at it in many ways. As I mentioned previously, that there was no regulator, like a commission, to make sure that there's overseeing that the legislation is implemented correctly. I think that was one of the reasons. But also there's the element of corruption, where whether there's BEE or not, you still find corruption, because when there's 2 people involved, and I feel that maybe out of a tender that is being issued, I can make maybe 10% for myself on the side. So I think there's that one, it doesn't matter whether it's BEE is involved or not, because when people are going to be corrupt, they are going to be corrupt. But I think
right, the corrupt are corrupt.
But I think it just gave people maybe an added advantage to say now we're going also to make use of BEE to hide what was already happening. So I don't think corruption is a new thing. It has always been with us. It's just that with BEE, maybe people have taken it to another level. And again, it goes to the point I made to say some people are not even aware that they are being used. They only become later, realized later, because we had a gentleman calling us to say, I resigned from this company 5 years ago, but I just got a call recently to say I owe SARS money. And I'm not sure how do I owe SARS money, or they wanted to open their own business, and then they discovered that they owe SARS money. Then it turns out that a business has opened under their name without them being aware.
So they got lumped with the
they got lumped with the debt because the entity was just raking in the money and not even paying the tax man.
So that is disgusting.
That's the level of how some people can go. Yeah. So you have literally messed another man's life.
That is disgusting. And can the Commission be involved there? That's an education thing. Can people come for advice before entering deals?
Yes, I mean, we always advise entities to say our services for now are free. So anytime you want to get into a deal, in fact, we do have companies coming to us asking for advice, and we advise them. Either they come for a meeting, but we normally prefer that they send us a draft of documents of what they're intending to do, so that we can look at what they're planning to do and then advise them based on a written document. Because when I sit and talk to you now, Francis, what you're going to go and do might be something different. Yes. And which there's an element I want to add as well, where we're saying we offer non-binding advisory opinions. The point is that we might say to you, this document that you gave us, we think is aligned, but the final document, you might not see it. And when you do implement, you might implement something that's different from the advisory opinion that we gave you. And you're going to go around and saying, the Commission gave me this opinion, whereas...
So check everything.
Yes. Whereas the final document might be something different, and that's the Act always supersedes everything else.
Lebo, I'd like to ask you something, because there was a concern that if we as a country put quotas in place, we have an apartheid legacy, we have a current problem with our education system. Will the skills be there? But you are a digital technology solutions provider. Look at some of your services, sensors, robots. I think you're involved in fiber, radio communication, encryption, biometrics. And you are managing to do this, it sounds like, at each and every level. So the skills are there.
The skills are there, but they're hard to find. I mean, I gave an example earlier of trying to find an MD for our connectivity business.
And you said it took a while.
And it took a while. It took about 7-8 months. And it was because we were struggling to find black qualified people in that area. And we find that challenge quite a lot. I think there's a difference between trying to fulfill quotas and trying to do the right thing and building diversity into our teams, because we think teams grow better when they're diversified. So that's why we take the time that we take to make sure that we go look for them. But what we're also doing is also trying to bring in and build the skills ourselves. So a lot of our people that are in the business are going through all types of training and development, especially in those specialized sectors like robotics and cybersecurity, where the skills are very, very rare. And what we've recently noticed as well is that most of our engineers, because a lot of this type of work is done by engineers, are immigrating. So it's no longer just a matter of that their skills are not around, it's that the skills are needed worldwide, because digital technology is become a global phenomenon. So it's trying to find skills and keep them.
We heard the other day from a top management company that it's not only white people immigrating as sometimes suspected.
It's white and black people.
Black professionals are also looking abroad, which creates this challenge. Does the Commission accept that is a challenge? And do you think we have the right the right carrots in place and the right stick right now to encourage companies to transform at a faster pace?
When you look at one of the objectives of the Act, it talks about critical skills and scarce skills, to say what are we training our kids on. When you look at the curriculum right now, I don't think it's still ready for the future we're in. I'm not talking the future that's coming, I'm talking the fourth industrial revolution right now, as it stands. 5 years ago, somebody was telling us that, to say people are already printing furniture. What are we doing to make ourselves ready for that revolution? So I think the interventions that we're putting in as a country, the question is, are they talking to what is needed, not just in the country, but worldwide. Because once you start making sure that the interventions, especially I'm talking about now our education system, even up to your university. Because one thing that I think we're not putting emphasis on is the TVET schools, because that's where most of these critical skills that are needed should be coming from, because it's more the practical work that's being done there. And we're saying for us, it's quite strange where you'll hear kids saying that we don't have money for varsity or for TVET, but you've got the skills development element. That's saying that as an entity, that's 6% of your payroll. You can use it for your staff and for unemployed black people. So we're saying, we hear people saying we've got 50 million, we don't know what to do, we don't know what to do with it. And you're saying we've got kids that need funding. Why don't you use that money to fund those kids so that they get bursaries and then they go and study and come back and be part of the society.
Well, let's maybe end off with young people, because there is that YES initiative linked to the BEE code, so you can move up levels by employing young people. Lebo, does that encourage you? Are you actively looking at the young pool? Does it encourage you to do that?
It does. I think we're obliged to do so. In technology, we've got some partnerships with universities where we support, from a funding perspective, programs that train young people in the sectors that we are in, but we also take them in for internships as well, because they need the experience. So there's a lot of, in all our 4 businesses, over our 4 business units, there's interns that are coming through in paces for this type of training.
So thank you both. I can just say I'm so encouraged to hear what your company is doing.
You're
and
welcome.
Busi, your knowledge is incredible. Thank you so much. I hope we can chat again. That was Busi Ngwenya, who's a commissioner from the BBBEE Commission, and Lebo Madiba, who's representing the top empowered business of the year. That was Etienne Limited.